Hi everyone. So yes, it's another worm video. So I've had a bit of a rethink of my flow through worm bin that I built. It's almost to the top now. I'm a few inches from the top. They're doing really well, feeding well, sort of, and I'm learning how to work with them, how to feed them, sort of when they need feeding, and you know, I'm learning as I go, and it's all been a good experience. But I came to have my first little rake out. Like I say, I'm about probably 8 inches from the top of the bin, and I thought I just want to get, you know, have a little go, see how it works with the barbecue grills that I used in there. Obviously it was all stuff that I had. I didn't spend any money on it at all. Anyway, when I went under, the actual central support beam is bowing a little bit. There's a knot and a bit of a crack in the middle, and the actual grills themselves, they're bowing too. So I just looked at it and I thought, I know it's not going to work. It's going to end up giving at some point. So I've had to make a decision. What do I do? And because even if I redo it, I'm going to have to empty it first. So anyway, the big plan, I decided, because I've been thinking about having an outdoor bed anyway. So I thought, sod it, I'm just going to order myself some blocks. I looked at timber. I was going to use sheets of exterior grade ply, but ply these days, you're looking for a sort of 18 mil sheet of ply 8x4. You're looking at nearly £50, you know, and there's only going to be a certain amount of life in that, being in constant contact with damp soil. Even if you treat it, varnish it or whatever, it's only going to have a certain life. And also it could bow and stuff, you know. You're then going to need posts and things to support it. So I just did a bit. I thought to myself, what about using these big blocks, which is what I've done, obviously, as you can see. So I've ordered myself a whole pallet of these, 40 blocks on a pallet. Came to £142, I think, from a local dealer. Delivered to your door, free local delivery. So I've got 40 blocks. These are 440 mil long by 215 by 215. Nice sturdy block. I've just shifted them all here by hand, one at a time. They weigh 30 kilos each, so they're really sort of substantial. So the idea is I'm going to build a bed, an outdoor bed, and I'm going to dig out the flow through bin and start my outdoor bed with that. Then maybe over the winter, I'll have a little bit of a rethink of the flow through bin, and maybe cut the bottom completely open and put some round bar or some sort of PVC piping or something. I'll have a little think with that. But for now, the next project is this outdoor bed. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it in the middle here, because this is kind of right in the middle of the veg garden. And the sort of idea being, really, obviously I'm going to get a good population of worms. Worms quite naturally, when you get thunderstorms, things like that, when there's a change in pressure, they sort of tend to migrate. Well, that's fine with me. I don't mind if they migrate out into my veg garden and increase the population of worms all around here. You know, I've got wood chip paths, so there's going to be that layer of compost between the chip and the ground. All of my beds get 2 inches of compost every year, so if it increases the population of worms, then all the better for it, really, for me, for the veg. But obviously the bulk of them will stay in the bin. That's where I'll be feeding. I've just spoke to a lady a couple of days ago who's offered me manure before. She's literally not even 2 miles, probably a mile down the road. So I'm going to start picking up some horse manure that I'm going to use through my worms before it goes on the garden. So I haven't measured anything yet. I'm not quite sure whether I'm going to use a piece of timber. I've got this bit of ply here. If I give it a varnish up, whether to use that as an end board that I can then pull away as I move the bed along to dig out, or whether to just do it blocks all the way around. So I'm going to have a little play, and I'll sort of see how it looks, because I need to leave enough room to get either side of it. I'm not going to leave enough room for a wheelbarrow, purely because there's not that much room in here, really. What have I got? I've probably got 7.5 foot. So I don't know, I'm looking at maybe internal about a 3 foot bed. I'll have to look how to the blocks lie. Obviously, if I have a block end, that will support the walls a little bit. If I just put a bit of timber on the end, then I may have to bang a little bit of steel through the blocks and into the ground just to make sure they don't fall. But at 30 kilos a block, they're pretty sturdy. They hold pretty well. So yeah, so I'm going to have a bed. Like I say, 40 blocks is 2 blocks high. That gives me about 16 inches, I think. Actually, about 17 inches. So plenty high enough, but I could always just go up another block and go to 3 blocks if I want to, if I order another pallet in future. So the idea is these strawberry towers are obviously in the way. Now, if you've watched my strawberry tower video, don't be disheartened. They do work. I've had a good lot of fruit off them. But what I've found here is that because I'm not here every day, and because occasionally I've only got an hour, 2 hours down here, and I've got lots of water, I've forgotten to water them once or twice, come back next day, they've all been wilting that. So it's a fantastic idea for at home in your back garden if you've got mains, water, and you're obviously there a lot more. But for me down here, I just think being up like this in the constant breeze and the full sun, they just dry out a little bit too quick. So this one I'm going to take down in a minute, and I'll just stack the pots over here on the plastic. I've got about 20 metres of plastic where I grow my trees. I sell a few trees and cuttings. I'm going to put them over there so I don't forget to water them, and they can stand on the plastic, and I can start my bin. And then in the winter I'll take down the other 2 strawberry towers and perhaps dedicate 2 of my beds to just strawberries. So I'll take that down, then I'm going to have a little bit of a play, a little bit of a measure up, and sort of see what size I want it to be. But the basic idea with a bed like this is that rather than doing it all in one go, filling it all up, I'm going to do it as sort of a wedge system. So I'll start this end, I'll dig out that bed, and I'll put all the throw through bin, and I'll put all of that this end, and I'll feed it until it's at the right height, and then I'll just feed the front and the top, and I'll just bring it along all the way along between the blocks. And then when I get as far as I want to get, I'll start digging out this end when there's not so many worms in it, when they've moved along with the food. So perhaps at sort of 6-8 foot, I can start harvesting from this side. And then when I get as far as I've sort of built the bed, I'll just dig it out, start coming my way back, leave 2 or 3 feet at the end, dig up to that till I'm hitting worms, and then I'll just start feeding it back, and you can just go left to right, backwards and forwards, harvesting as I go. But hopefully with this sort of size bed, I can get a really large sort of herd of worms going, and produce. It'd be nice if I could produce a ton or 2 a year of vermicompost for the whole site. That'd be ideal. So I'm going to take this strawberry tower down, then I'm going to have a little play and see what sort of size I'm going to do it. Okay, so that's the strawberries all moved. Now I had 2 choices, like I said. I've just laid this out, and obviously what I could have done is just done the walls, although obviously because I'm staggering the blocks, I'd have had a lower block. Anyway, I don't think I'm going to use the timber. I was going to do that and just have the 2 walls just to save a few blocks, and then I could obviously take that away to get in and dig. But in all honesty, I think it's just a lot more sturdy. It's just a lot more sturdy like that. Obviously the blocks are overlapping, it's just going to make everything a bit more rigid. So what I've done, I've gone 3 blocks at the bottom, and then obviously the walls then butt up to that at the bottom and overlap at the top. So that gives me an internal width of 35 inches, so 1 inch under 3 foot. I can't go any bigger. That gives me exactly 19 and a half inches from each post. 19 and a quarter, that one. Just do it by eye, you know. But yeah, so I've raked out the wood chip. So they're actually, when the wood, I top the wood chip up every year as well. So it will eventually actually be set down in the ground a couple, 2 or 3 inches, because the wood chip will sort of build up a bit. It does break down, but I've only done 1 layer on here. This year I'm going to really top it up nice and thick. So it'll actually be sort of bedded into the ground a little bit. But what I'm hoping with these hollow wall blocks is that it will kind of provide a bit of insulation. So in the summer, this gets, I'm pretty much south facing here. It's going to get the beating sun all day, So the idea of putting it in the middle here, I've got summer fruiting raspberries here, and I've got loganberry, tayberries and thornless blackberries along these wires here. Only been in a year, and actually a few of these haven't made it this year. They were all ordered from the same place, and they didn't survive very well, so I wasn't very happy. But anyway, eventually it'll be summer raspberries, so they'll be tied up. These fruit on second year canes, so I'll have new canes tied up here, and the old fruiting canes. Obviously it's a little bit tight at 19.5 inches. I'm going to sort of, I'm not the smallest guy, I'm quite wide, so I'm going to be kind of you know, scooting down here a little bit, but the idea is it's going to give it a bit of shade, because they'll be up here to the top wire. So if I hold my hand in now, obviously the sun's over there, but that's shading out to about here, the shadow. But at this width, I've got plenty of shade netting and plastic. I can put bricks on top and suspend shade netting over it, which I'm going to have to do anyway, because I get blackbirds in here all the time hooking out worms and things from my beds. So I'm going to have to put them on here. All I'm going to be doing is feeding all the local birds. I'm not worried about moles or anything. I'm not going to put mesh on the bottom. Part of what I'm a self-employed gardener, as I've mentioned before, but I also do a bit of pest control. So during the summer I treat wasp nests. Can get very busy some years with wasps, but what I do all year round, I'm also a mole catcher. Traditional mole catcher, I only use traps. I either catch or I don't, you know, poisons and that have been banned in the UK anyway. And I did do gassing for a little while. I had a certificate to do that, but I don't particularly like that sort of thing. I would rather either catch it or not, you know, and sort of know where I am. As I get older, I don't like the idea of anything suffering, so I'm a mole trapper. That's what I do. And it's actually quite a big part of my living. I do a lot of, I do schools, playing fields, football pitches, a lot of domestic work. So if I get a mole coming in, I'm just going to catch him. I know what I'm doing, so I'm not worried about moles. So yeah, so it doesn't give me a lot of room, but I've got plenty of room here. I can bring a wheelbarrow up to the end, and you know, there's enough room each side to stand and to dig. Obviously I can stand on the wall, I can lean on the bed, and once I've cleared the space, I've just got to step over the wall and just dig from there. And I can use trugs, and you know, it's only a short wall, so it's fairly easy. So I think I've made my mind up that that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to stick at that size, 2 blocks high, and just come along as far as the blocks take me. Obviously, I'm not cementing these together, by the way, just in case you're thinking, why have I freestanded? That's how I'm doing it. You know, there's a little bit of movement in them, but they're not going to fall over. Because of the height of them, there's not going to be a lot of side pressure, so it should hold fairly well. And a few little gaps between them will just be more airflow, right? So I'm not worried about that. So yeah, so I think that's what I'm going to do. I don't necessarily need to put all the blocks out now, because I only got enough to probably fill two blocks width from what I've got already. What I might do is I might actually treat myself to an extra couple of kilos of worms. I realised the site where I got my first wormery, I can get a kilo of worms, I think it's £27 or something like that. So I may actually treat myself to another couple of kilos just to really get this going. But obviously the worry with this sort of thing for me, if we get a very cold winter, and this is a frost hollow, I've mentioned it many times before, whatever temperature I am at home, just down the road, I'm 2 miles from here, gate to door exactly, it's always 2 or 3 degrees colder down here. This is a bit of a frost hollow. The land all slopes. It slopes this way in like a slight valley, and it slopes down all the way down to about the end of my plot, where it then reaches the bottom, and then if you drive down the road it carries on going up. So I am definitely in the lower part of a sort of a small valley, so it does tend to get the cold sitting here. So insulating it is going to be my worry, because it's outside. I will always take some worms. What I'm going to do in the winter is carry on my breeding. I've done some worm breeding videos, and I will carry on that breeding at home in the winter in the garage, just in case I lose the worms in the bed. But from what I've read, the cocoons, so the worm eggs, they're within the little cocoons. Those cocoons will survive freezing, they'll survive waterlogging. they're pretty tough old things, the cocoon. So even if we get a really long, prolonged cold spell, even with the insulation and the bed freezes and I lose 90% of the worms or something, then all those cocoons should then hatch in the spring or in the any warmer weather and repopulate it. Even though you're starting with smaller worms, it should repopulate it. You know, it's going to be a bit of a cycle. It's going to be a bit of a learning curve, but you know, we'll see how we go. What I might try doing is perhaps getting a bale of straw and just ramming straw into the wall, into the holes of the wall. I can fleece over the top. I've got spare bits of tin lying around. I can tin over the top to stop it getting too wet in the winter. You know, all sorts of things, plastic, whatever. I could put straw over the top and then sheets of plastic and sort of bricks and weigh it all down. And the good thing, obviously, with the bed being on the soil, if it gets really cold, then the worms can just go down. They can go down into the soil. So it's going to have to be pretty bloody cold to freeze, you know, 2 foot solid bed, I would have thought. But, you know, we'll see. We'll see. It will be a learning curve. But so I'm going to get on, put the blocks out. I don't know what the time is. I may not get it all done today. So if I suddenly change, it's because I've come back a different day to finish it off. But yeah, so this is the plan. Anyway, so I'll get the other blocks in, rake the wood chip back and get the other blocks on and sort of see what size we've got. Right, so I've put half the blocks in. I've got the same amount again to go, and that's given me a bed length so far internally of sort of, well, so 5.5 feet comes to just this open area here. So, you know, I've got the same amount of blocks again. What I'm actually going to do is I'm not going to put an end on it, that end. So I will work from the end there, because with those blocks, if I've got 5.5 feet, when I use 6 blocks at the end, I should get at least probably 7 feet or so. So maybe 12 or 14 feet in total length. So by then, by the time they get anywhere near that, I'll be digging out the back. So what I can do is I can actually just lift out those 5 or 6 blocks and just take them to the other end and close it off, so that I can work the worms up to it and then build it up to the top as I'm digging out. And then once I get to a point where they've built right up at that end, I'll stop there and start working it back. And then I can just move it again and do the same thing again. It's only moving 5 or 6 blocks. It'd take me 5 minutes, you know. So yeah, I think that's what I'll do. But that's a good size bed. I should get a good couple of ton of compost in there, possibly more. I mean, I haven't worked out the volume, but it could be 3 or 4 ton. So, you know, it's going to be a hell of a lot of worms in there, hopefully. But yeah, I mean, it should work well. I've got to rake this wood chip flat. But that's quite a good bit of room. And like I say, once I'm digging it out, if I just remove that wall, then I'll just be coming straight in from this end. It'll be open and I can just be digging from this end. So yeah, it should work really well, hopefully. And anyway, I'm going to shoot home, have some dinner, and I will come back and finish this off, and we'll put the worms in and get it all started. So this is a week later. I did make a decision on Sunday afternoon, fueled by a few pints of lager, I'll be honest, to just go big or go home, Phil. That's what the voice in my head was saying. So, ordered another pallet of blocks. So I've got 80 blocks now, and I've decided to go 3 blocks high, as you can see there. 3 blocks high, and I'm going to just come as far as it will take me at 3 blocks high. I also ordered another 2 kilos of worms from Worm City, where I originally got my starter kit from. Quite reasonable. I think it's £22 a kilo plus delivery. It works out about £27 a kilo. So I'll just figure, you know, that's going to really, with the flow through bin I'm going to dig out, and my 2 recycling bin worm rids, I'm just going to put all into here to really just get one big bed going. With an extra 2 kilos, that'll really give it a good kickstart. So I've had a long day today, planting, hedging, digging trenches and planting, hedging all day. Came home to find these delivered. So not really what I wanted in 30+ degree heat. It's been an absolute knackering day, but I've got them all down here. It's about 5:30 now. I'm going to get all these out, get the bed built, so that tomorrow I haven't got to worry about doing anything backbreaking. I can just basically get the bed started and finish the video tomorrow. So I'll get all these out now, build it up 3 blocks high, and then I'll show you sort of what sort of size I've got. I'll try and have a little figure out of the volume as well. But and then tomorrow I'll finish off the video by filling the bed, digging out the flow through bin, putting all my worms, bar my wormery I've got at home. I'm going to put them all into this bed. I'm going to continue the worm breeding to keep topping this up. Basically, I'd like to go into winter having this bed pretty much at full population, so that I can get a real good sort of head start next spring with the amount of vermicompost that I'll have. Obviously, if we have a mildish winter, I can keep them going right through the winter. If we have a freezing cold winter, it may slow down, stop. I may even lose some of the worms, but this is why I'm going to continue the breeding in the garage to top it up if need be. But anyway, let's get this bed built and then I'll show you when I'm done. So that's the bed finished. I'm just 1 block short, so I'll pick up a block next time I'm passing a dealer to finish it off and square it off. I did decide to do a solid wall end, just keep it all contained and kind of supporting itself a bit more, so no timber on it. So that gives me a nice bed. So it's basically 35 inches wide and just over 26 inches deep, and the length I haven't actually measured yet. So internal, so where are we, about 15 and a half feet, 15 and a half foot long, just over 2 foot deep, quite a lot over 2 foot deep. So I'll have to have a little calculation of the volume, but anyway, I'm not going to fill the whole bed all at once. I'm going to work from one end to the other, digging out behind as I go, like I said before. I'm not just going to fill it and then sort of dig and sieve. I'd rather work the worms away from the end and then dig out the compost behind them. It should be less worms in it doing it that way. And then I'll just work them up to this end, build them up to the top, dig up to here, and then work my way back. So that's all done anyway. So I'll come back tomorrow and we'll get all the worms in up that end and get it started. So yeah, that's all done. So today's the day. I'm going to dig out my flow through bin. As I mentioned before, it's a bit broken, the central beam, and I've realised the barbecue grills that I used at the bottom just aren't strong enough. Obviously, when this is getting quite full, there's a lot of weight there, probably a couple of 100 kilos or something, and it just wasn't working. It's a bit of a bad idea, but you live and learn. So this is the day where I'm going to combine all my wormers together except the green stackable worm bin that I've got at home for my sort of direct kitchen waste, although it doesn't take all of it. We do have a lot of veg obviously from the garden, and that one little bin can't take anywhere near the waste I produce. But we're going to dig this out. I've got all my trugs, various sizes, different trugs that I use for weeding and jobs. So hopefully I've got enough trugs to dig all this out into the trugs, get it all out, everything I can, every worm, every bit of bedding, get it all into the trugs, ready to take over to the new bed. I'm also tipping out the 2 recycling bins that I had here next to it that I started with just 50 worms. They've actually done quite well. I've seen eggs and I've seen baby worms, so they are slowly increasing. Obviously, starting with just 50 worms, it would have probably taken the whole summer to sort of really colonise those bins. But I just want to get everything into one bed so that I can concentrate on my worm breeding and have one big worm bed that I can put all my rubbish into. It just makes it a whole lot easier for me, really. I may redesign this flow through bin in the winter, but we'll see. That'll be a project for another day. But yeah, let's get on and dig this bed out. So I'm going to just use this small children's fork just to very carefully dig through the bin. I want to hurt as small amount of worms as possible. And I'm not worried about mixing this top layer where I've got some feed with the stuff underneath, because it's not a massively well established bed. So I'm just going to mix it all together and then they can sort themselves out when they're in the new bed. So I'm just going to take it nice and steady. I don't want to damage anything. And I'll get all these trugs full, and then we'll get them moved. I'm going to have to do a few loads. There's a lot more compost in there than I realised. It's probably going to be about 3 lots of these, I should imagine. So I've got the 2 recycling bins, which are going to go in here as well. And like I say, there'll be about 9 of these. Now what I'm going to do, rather than put it in a deep pile, I'm going to do it as if I'm starting a new bed. So I'm going to come up perhaps to the top of the first block. So that's about 6 to 8 inches, because there's a bit of wood chip in the bottom. So it's probably about 7 inches. And I'll just come along as far as I can go with that. And then I'll start feeding it up. Because if I make it too deep, then the worms may not go down and continue working the bottom, because they only tend to work in the top sort of 6 or 8 inches, I think. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to sort of come out up to the top of the first block as far as I can come, and then I'll feed it up until I'm at the top, and then I'll start feeding it forward. And the worms should hopefully then move along with it. So that's the plan. I'm going to get tipping these in. I'm getting it sorted now and get it done as quick as I can, so as to disturb the worms as least as possible. Right, so I've got the last trug here. I'm just going to very gently rake this out to the height I said, the top of the first block. And then I've got 2 kilos of worms to add. And I'll add those, and I'll put the last trug sort of around them so they can get down and stay cool, because it is a hot day today. It's going to be up in the 30s easily again. So I've got enough compost there. I've come along 1, 2, about 3 blocks worth. So sort of just under 4 foot, something like that. That's all the bedding mixed together, so I'm going to give them a little while to work this all through again. So I've got my 2 kilos of worms, and I'm just going to plonk these on top. So this should really help. There's quite a few worm eggs in here. Just found one there on a bit of wood chip. I've seen quite a few dotted about, so they are breeding well. And with these 2 kilos as well, and my worm breeding, I should hopefully, by the end of the summer, have this worm bin really well populated. So that's the 2 kilos of worms. They obviously don't like the sun, and they will try and get away from it, but I'm going to get them covered up anyway. So the last sort of half a trug, I'm just going to put this just gently sort of over the top. Like I say, it's a hot day. I don't want them, there's a bit of cardboard there. I don't want them getting too distressed. So that's it. That's all of my bins that I've got down here, all in this one bed. Now, what I'm going to do for now, I've got this 1 metre length weed matting. So I'm just going to roll this out and put this over the top I know it's black, but I'm going to put shading over the top as well. Obviously black will just absorb the heat. This is just to sort of keep them a little bit comfy underneath. It's permeable to water and air. I'm just going to roll this off the tube because it's not going to quite fit between the blocks. So I can just ball it up at the end of how far I've got with the bed. So this can just all ball up at the end and it'll just keep them shaded and an incomplete sort of darkness under there. And then what I have got, I'll just move the camera. So I've got a huge length of this shade netting. There must be, I think there's 20 or 30 meters of it here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to double or triple it over the bed. And what I actually realised yesterday, the hoops that I use for my beds, these square hoops, they fit perfectly in the holes in the wall. Obviously a little bit wobbly in there, but they're not going to move anywhere or fall out or anything. So I'm going to put these across, probably 2 blocks apart, should probably do it. I'll put that to about there. So they'll just sit in there. Now the sun comes up, like I say, I'm almost perfectly south facing, not quite perfectly, but it comes up here. So it's always just slightly back that way. So I'm going to put the netting from this side as far as it comes this way. And I've got these little netting clips to clip it to these tubes. So like I say, I've got enough to double or triple this if I need to. And I can just have this permanently over the top to just keep them nicely shaded. So if I go to that end there, then that's shading the whole bed. So I'll do it double for now. But like I say, there's enough to probably do it triple if I need to. It's, again, off an old job, I keep everything I use on the gardening. It always comes in handy. So that's double thickness. And just have a look how much shade that's casting. So I might actually go triple thickness just to give it almost permanent sort of full shade. Go triple, and there's enough to do the whole bed. Like I said, I think this is 20 or 30 meters if I remember rightly, and this bed's just under 5. So I worked out the volume. I think last night it was just under 3 cubic meters, just slightly under, like 295 or something. Cubic meters volumes. That's a good sized bed and should produce me a whole lot of vermicompost. So that shades it but allows airflow. And then I've got the weed matting on top just to sort of give them complete darkness, and this will just stop it from actually absorbing too much heat. I've never actually used these clips because I just use bricks to hold my netting down, but these just clip over and just hold the net tight on the tube so it doesn't move. So I'll put these around. So yeah, I mean, that's the bed finished. And just got to keep it well fed now, but I'll give them a few days to settle in because there's probably excess food there, and I've mixed the layers a bit, so I'll let them sort of work through it a bit and settle in, and then I'll start feeding. But I'm happy with that. It makes me realise actually what little I had in those bins. It's a tiny little wedge compared to the size of the bed. But yeah, I'm actually quite happy with the way this shading is going to work. I mean, if I find it blows off or something in a storm, I mean, it's only going to happen now and again. I can always put some timbers on top, but I could change it. I've got tins although tin will obviously get quite hot underneath as well in the sun. Eventually, when all these climbers are up, then they will shade it a little bit as well. But for now, I'm going to try this and see how it works. I'll put it down here so that it shades the side where the sun is. Yeah, so I think that's everything I've got to say, really. It's all done. The worms are in. Job finished. So hope you enjoyed the video, guys. There's going to be lots more worm videos, I'm sure, because it's something I'm really getting into. If it's something you're looking at doing, you know, please follow me on my journey. I should have a playlist of worm videos now because I've done quite a few. And you know, let me know what you're doing in the comments. Let me know if you've got any ideas, obviously, if you've done a similar thing, and you've got any ideas for me, things I can try. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed the video. Please remember to like and subscribe, and we will see you next time. Take it easy, people.